Okay, today is Bell Let's Talk Day, and here on the street, we're exploring how soft skills can make for good business. Our next guest has worked with the UN, the NFL, and governments to share insights on human skills development. Here to talk about it is Dr. Parnell, founder and CEO of SkillsCamp. Doctor, thank you very much for joining us today. We appreciate it. Those are some tough groups you worked with on soft skills. I mean, the NFL, what was it like working for them, and what were some of the focuses for the soft skills there?
Yes, well, there you can imagine that when you have talent or when you have people in the public, you know better than most, that you also get the scrutiny with that. And what can that do to your performance? What can that do to your game? That was kind of where we were focusing at that time, which was how the public scrutiny and social media can focus. But that's an everyone thing, really. It doesn't matter if you're performing in peak performance, whether it's in political, diplomacy, athletics, whatever it might be. What happens in your life, sometimes delivered to you via social media and sometimes not, affects your mental well-being. It affects how you operate and how you can perform.
Right.
I was just sort of curious, in the financial industry, there's been a lot made of, especially the investment banking profession, long hours, and then that starting to change and wear on people. I'm just curious if you had any experience there.
I do have a lot of experience in finance and tech and all of the things. And unfortunately, there is research to support the fact that you cannot replace long hours when it comes to burnout and when it comes to people not being able to work simply from a health perspective, things like sick leaves, absenteeism, and the long hours does correlate with that. But there are things that can be done in those hours in order to help people achieve sense of well-being, or how we look at performance, peak performance really, for any person, is that it's not just time. It's time, and then there's energy, and then there's attention. And you know that even when you have the time to do something, you may not have any energy in that time, and it's still not effective. And then even if you do have the energy, you may be giving your attention away to something like a distraction or someone at your door, and then you're still not doing the things that you want to do. But energy management and attention management is actually where you can create more in that time. And so it's much better for well-being to focus there sometimes.
And how would you incorporate that into the corporate world? I mean, because it's the go, 24/7. I mean, now they're looking at expanding the markets. There's no rest for the wicked sometimes.
Yes, well, it does seem counterintuitive sometimes in an old, I guess, pocketbook or bottom line to think, how am I going to help my people with their energy management and attention management, like focus? How is helping my people focus better? Or think about different kinds of energies. Like for us, we'll focus on physical, seems to be the most obvious, but there's also your emotional energy, your cognitive energy. And for a lot of people, there's also spiritual energy, or what we might call like purpose or drive, or what are we doing this for? And you can have all the physical energy in the world, but if you're distracted or you're feeling off, or what we're talking about with Bell Let's Talk Day, mental health, it won't matter. So for us, we go into a lot of organizations and we're often helping leaders figure out how can we get the best, even in finance, how can we help people be their best self? Because we believe, and those companies believe, that if they're their best self, they're going to take care of their work, they're going to take care of our clients, and our bottom line will be taken care of.
So it does pay off. What are some of the simple things sometimes that companies can incorporate? Yeah. And how do you overcome? I imagine there is some resistance to this. How do you overcome the resistance to it?
I'll tell you the most effective thing, which may not be expected, and then I'll tell you the sort of easier ways that companies get into it. Easy ways that companies go to is when they focus on things like total rewards, benefits. Like, do you even have sick days that you pay for? And we're talking different levels and sizes of businesses. So that answer is not the same across the board. One, do you put on paper that we honor the whole human experience, really, and that we understand, of course, it affects how you walk into this work. But actually, probably the linchpin, the most important thing that would determine whether or not your employees are engaged is, do you have leadership development? Do you actually have leaders? Because, and here's why I say this, the biggest contributor to your employees' engagement is their direct manager, their direct boss, their direct leader. About over 80% of the variance. And within that, over 70% of that engagement is, do they have emotional intelligence? So that's things like, does your leader talk to you about you? Do they give you space to exist outside of the work that's on the paper? And if not, then you are having to disassociate at work. And that's another cognitive load on top of what you already have to do. So I would say what organizations should do more is develop better leaders, because you will definitely reach your goals better and faster. But the side benefit would actually be more engaged, more healthy employees. And that's unexpected for a lot of folks.
Now, is there a concern with the engaging people? Is there a concern that you might ask the wrong questions and people are afraid to actually get to know some of the people they work with?
There is sometimes a fear, just as there's a fear when you meet someone on the street that you might get it wrong. And so what we try to do is when we're trying to create cultures of relationships, that we would say, that we're going to leave room for you to make mistakes. And we're going to invite that, and we're going to teach a leader how to have those conversations. And really having difficult conversations and building relationships actually is cornerstone of our leadership work. And for that reason, it's the thing that is hardest. Especially in Canada, everyone wants to be kind. Like, it doesn't seem that way all the time.
We're the land of sorry, right?
Like when you watch the news, but most people we run into actually want to do a good job. Like, most people don't want to offend their employees. And if you run with that as the base, you can say, well, here's some small ways to change your language that you may not have realized would invite a different response. Like, how was your weekend versus, what did you get up to this weekend? And suddenly I'm going to learn a little bit more about you, and I'm going to learn threads that I can pull that would actually build a real relationship.
Just sort of curious again, too, on when you're building a corporate culture, like what are those cornerstones that you want to work with in terms of, like, what are the top 2 or 3 priorities that you want to set as a corporate culture to get your employees to be engaged? Because I would say it's difficult to always have everybody want to be as passionate as you are. Being an owner of my own business, like it's me, it's everything that that goes through me. But how do you expand that onto your employees the best?
If you're trying to build a corporate culture, at risk of repeating, a similar message, I would say the most important thing you can do is invest in your leaders. And I mean your people leaders. I don't mean management of things and finances and priorities. I mean, who are the ones responsible for how people show up in the workplace? They are absolutely, for me, you will see the biggest results with employee engagement. But then they need to be able to lean on something too. So do they have protected time to even have a one-on-one with someone? And if they don't, then that leader's answering to another leader that's not actually supporting them. The second thing is companies often are not living their values. Like, we often hear a lot, mission, vision, values, and principles, priorities. And it's like, we invest so much time in this. We make it such a huge brand. We put it on the walls. We put it on the website. We make it part of recruitment and branding and all this stuff. But then when you actually talk on the ground to the people, it's, well, how do they live respect? And how do they live inclusion? And what does that look like in behaviors? And there's a lot of organizations that I would say are not living their values. And if they can actually, what we would call is operationalize those values, what does it actually look like when we meet with a client? That is better learning design, really. It's actually better how adults, even doesn't matter how old you are, doesn't matter how long you've been in the business, to show up to a company that says we value respect. I'll tell you, there's 3 people here, there's 3 different definitions of respect. Okay. And so for adult learners or workers or leaders to say, like, what does that look like in practice would be very helpful for culture. That's actually how culture is created. And then culture in general is created from even here in Canada, is created from having shared histories and language and music and those values and things like that. Companies that are really thinking about how culture is formed are actually probably heading over into sociology, anthropology, and thinking like, do we have colors? Do we have language that everybody knows? Or when people are onboarded, do we not tell them what the acronyms mean? Okay. So they can't be part of culture.
All right, we have to wrap it up there. But Doctor, thank you very much for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Very happy.
That was Dr. Bailey Parnell, founder and CEO of SkillsCamp.